When it comes to calculating simple interest, the formula is I equals capital P times R times T. Now, please do notice this finds the amount of interest earned, okay? It does not include the principal. This is not the total amount of money in the account. This is just interest only. If you want to find the total amount of money, including simple interest, that is A equals P times the quantity 1 plus RT. And what I want to point out is that is not like some new crazy formula. If you distribute the P using your algebra skills to the 1 and then to the RT, notice this is just another version of the same formula, just not in factored form. Notice that this first value here is your principal, and this second value here is the interest. And so that's why that's the total in your account, the amount you invested plus the extra. In these formulas, I is your interest, A is the total amount in the account, okay, that includes interest, P is your principal, R is your interest rate in decimal form, and T is time in years. Now, I also do want to point out that when it comes to taking your exams in this class, these two formulas here need to be memorized. Okay, when you take those proctored exams, these two formulas need to be memorized. The other formulas, you will have the availability of a formula sheet, which I will provide for you so that you don't have to memorize the formulas. All right, so let's put this to use. Treasury notes, or sometimes called T-notes, are bonds issued by the federal government to cover its expenses because, well, clearly our tax dollars are not enough. So let's say you get a $500 T-note with 4% interest paid annually, and it matures in 3 years. How much interest will you earn? So interest is the principal times the rate times the time. So that's the $500 at 4% interest for 3 years. You will earn a whopping $60 in interest over those 3 years. Okay, now let's talk about APR just for a second. So usually we talk, or you hear the term APR, that means annual percentage rate, and that's the total amount of interest that is paid in 1 year. Anytime they're going to pay you interest more frequently than that, maybe it's quarterly, maybe they're talking monthly, then they're going to divide up that interest amount into how many times interest is being paid within a year. So for example, a 6% APR paid quarterly or 4 times a year is divided into 4 1.5% interest payments. And if they were going to pay that same 6% monthly, then it's going to be divided into 12 1/2% payment. All right, so let's take a look at some examples here. And one of the things you're going to need to look for are some clues as to which formula to use. Again, not a big deal now. We only have the simple interest formula, but as we move on and start to acquire more and more formulas, you're going to have to pay attention to some of these cues. So for the first one, you obtain a $1,500 T-note with a 5% annual interest rate paid semi-annually. If the T-note matures in 5 years, how much interest will you earn? So anytime you see a T-note, that's a type of bond, that's going to be simple interest. So how much interest will you earn? Interest is your principal times your interest rate times the number of years. So $1,500 at 5% interest for 5 years, you will earn a total of $375 interest. Excuse me. A loan company charges $50 interest for a 1-month loan of $800. Find the annual interest rate they are charging. So again, we're being asked for an annual interest rate. And this is just a 1-month loan, so it's a short term. This is simple interest. So interest is your principal times your rate times your time. Now in this case, we have $50 in interest. The principal, or the amount borrowed, is $800. We're looking for the annual interest rate, and remember that T is time in years. So 1 month is 1/12 of a year. So we want to put a time of 1/12 in there. Multiplying the 800 times the 1/12 and then dividing both sides of the equation by that amount, we will find that R is 0.75. Now that is your interest rate as a decimal. That means that this loan company is charging 75% interest. And that's exactly the kind of things that you're going to get from those short-term loan companies. Okay, I'm going to have you pause the video, work questions C and D and E at this point, and then come back and see how you did. Okay, let's take a second to see how you did. So in question C, remember a 3-month loan is 3 out of 12 months in a year, or 1/4 of a year. Please be sure you're using 1/4 for T. Solving that equation should give you an interest rate of 24%. And again, make sure you take and turn that decimal 0.24 into a percentage. For part D, how much money will be in the account after 18 months? So how much money is the total, not just the interest only? So we're going to need to use the other formula. And 18 months is a year and a half. So plugging in the values, we know a starting amount of $3,000, interest rate of 2.5%. Sorry, I did the calculation correctly, but I wrote down the wrong thing. This should be 0.025. I forgot my 2 whenever I put that in there. So 0.25. And then a year and a half for the time. Multiplying that together, do insert the parentheses on your calculator. You should get a total of $3,112.50. And then last but not least for question E, at the end of 7 years, you have a total again of $2,379.30. That is the value of A in the total interest form, or total amount in the account formula. We want to know how much you originally deposited, so that means we're looking for P. The interest rate is 1.9%, so 0.019 as a decimal, and our time is 7 years. Doing the calculation in the parentheses, you get 1.133, and dividing both sides by that, you will come up with an original amount of $2,100. If you have any questions, please, again, go to the forum in the finance section on My Open Math and let me know how I can help.